channel. Sorry it's been a while as in a month since I've last posted. No excuses, I've just been putting it off, but I'm putting everything else in front of videoing lately, a month. I've been doing this. It's not an excuse, I should have got one sooner, but been putting it off. But thanks for bearing with me and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're gonna do a story time. Yes, a story time video. So this story is gonna blow your mind. It's literally like a movie. Not kidding, not being dramatic, like a movie. Today's story time is gonna be about how my dad and I got lost in the woods for 9 hours. I'm not kidding, 9 hours in Arkansas. So relax, grab some popcorn, grab some snacks, get all chillax. I kind of rhymed. Grab a popcorn, grab snacks, and chillax.
Shut up!
So this story is like you would like be in a movie, like you'd watch on TV and be like, oh my gosh, this would never happen to me, but it happened. So it's like, so during all this, I'm like, okay, bring out the cameras. All right, this is funny. I'm on a TV show. Like, you're trying to trick me. Haha, joke's over. No. It's not. So let's get started. So the beginning of the story, my dad found these two trails called Hemden Hollow and Sneeze Creek. So it's these two trails that kind of like connect together and it like rounds in one. So my dad contacted me and he's like, hey, I found these really cool like two trails in Arkansas. Let's go this weekend. Let's get up early and let's go hiking. Get out of town. Cause you know, it's been crazy. Everyone's been wanting to like get out of town. So my dad's like, let's go. Let's get out of here. Let's go hiking. Let's be one with nature and have a good time. So I'm like, all right, I'm telling you, my dad's early. Quotation early, because I would say still in the middle of the night early. 3 a.m. Was when we got up. Thank God we got up so early because we would have ran out of daylight. I'll get to that in a moment. So my dad gets me and we wake up 3 a.m., get in the car, getting ready, getting packed, overpacking. Key point there, overpack, guys. If you're going on any kind of hiking trip, overpack. I cannot stress that enough. Overpack. So my dad was telling me while I was packing, he's like, hey, like Sneeze Creek, in the name creek, there's a lot of like riverbeds and stuff you have to cross. So he's like, bring an extra pair of shoes. Thank God he told me that. We'll get to that later as well. We're overpacking, you know, getting everything ready, head up to Arkansas. So we get to Arkansas, we get to Hemden Hollow and Sneeze Creek Trail. I think, it's not precise, I think we got there at like 6 or 6:30. Yeah, I'd say 6:30 in the morning because we like stopped to get coffee and energy drinks and stuff. And so we got there, I'd probably say 6:30 in the morning. So we look at the sign, we're like, okay, Hemden Hollow, Sneeze Creek. Okay, Hemden Hollow's the first one. So we go. Beautiful scenery. I'll throw some pictures up for you guys to see. Beautiful like rock formations and waterfalls and like it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful place. That part was great. Nothing went wrong. We talked to other hikers. We stopped and like had a little snack at the waterfall. It was just perfect. It was a great morning. Everything was going according to plan. So I get done with that. So we kind of go up from where the waterfall is. Like I'll show you guys some pictures. Like after that we saw that waterfall. We go back up to like the fork where it goes off to a trail called Sneeze Creek at the fork, and it's the sign that says, you know, going to Sneeze Creek now. So we kind of look right there. Well, before we go to that fork, in Hemden Hollow, there was like a kind of like a trail off. My dad's like, oh, let's go to this trail. So it's like kind of, it was to get to the Buffalo River. And, it looked really heavy trafficked, so we went heavy traffic? Heavy traffic? Heavy traffic. So you can tell like it's been walked on a lot. So we're like, yeah, let's go. It just led you to like the Buffalo River. And we saw another trail, and it was kind of like high grass. There was a lot of high dead grass, by the way, and a lot of like dead leaves. and we kind of walked over there. Well, this trail, it was kind of like a little shortcut to start Sneed's Creek trail, and we're like, man, this just doesn't look very very heavy traffic from Buffalo River. When we got off, when we like went to the river, went to up this little tiny hill, and it started to like a shortcut Sneed's Creek, we could tell it wasn't very heavy traffic. Like the trail was starting to like, there were a lot of leaves covering it, so we stopped. And we're like, hey, let's go back to the fork to make sure this is the trail leading to the second one. So we go back up to the fork, coming from the off trail we went to, and we get up there, and we were like, okay, so that was Sneed's Creek. It was just a shortcut. We're like, man, why did it look so like hardly anyone was on there? Well, maybe a lot of people didn't know that shortcut, so So we sit there and we're kind of debating, like, do we want to go on the second one? I mean, we have so much time in the day, guys. Like that Hemden Hollow part, I can't remember how far to get to the waterfall. It wasn't that far at all. So we had a lot of time left. I mean, we got there at 6:30. We had a lot of time in the day left. And so we're like, okay, should we go on this? Well, then there was hikers that was coming. So we're like asking these fellow hikers, like, hey, have you hiked this a lot? They're like, yeah, Hemden Hollow's great. And my dad's like, well, what about Sneed's Creek? And he's like, most of the people we talk to, they're like, we don't really know much about it. Yes, it's marked, and they don't really know much about it. They didn't actually, everyone we talked to, they haven't went down that way. Because I think Sneed's Creek was like a longer trail, and it was more for like experienced hikers. That's how I got out of it, talking to these people. So my dad's like, what do you think, sis? And I'm looking at this trail, and you can already tell it's not popular, it seems like. And I said, man, Dad, I don't know. When we took that little shortcut by the Buffalo River, it just did not look promising. It just didn't look like it was, I didn't think it looked very fun. I like scenic hikes most of the time, and it just didn't look pretty, and it just looked very inhabited. Is that the word I'm looking for? And my dad's like, the adventurous soul that he is, he's like, he gave me this look like, come on, like, we're here to hike. And so I'm looking at the other hikers, and I'm like, I mean, hey, if you guys are here to hike, go for it. We just don't know too much about it. I should have went with my gut instinct. Dad, you should have listened to me that time. No, it's both, it's not both of our faults, but like, you should listen to me. But, so I'm like, fine, let's go get this done. Like, I mean, I was there to hike. We both were. I was just kind of iffy about it. I had a sign. God gave me this. Hey, don't go to this trail. We went anyway. So we go down. First part's great. Walking down. We're doing, like, we started seeing, like, I'll throw up some more pictures of Sneed's Creek part that we went on. We were going to beautiful, like, little mini waterfalls, beautiful rivers that we had to cross. I mean, just gorgeous, like, just great rock formations as well. It was a great start. And then it starts to get ugly. Before I go on to more of Sneed's Creek part, when you start a trail, it doesn't matter if it's the most popular trail. For example, Hawksbill Crag in Ponca, Arkansas, like one of the most popular trails. And you're like, oh, we're gonna get in and out, fine. Like, it's heavy traffic, like, it's fine. It's not even that long of a hike. Always look at your phone. Your phone, I think almost like every iPhone or Galaxy has a compass onto the phone. Look at where you're going. So for instance, when we started the trail, we looked at our compass, and we were going north. If you ever get lost and you like get off the main trail and you can't find it again, look at your compass and go the opposite way. So for us, if we went in north, we would be coming out of it south. It would give you a good estimated area where you left off. Keep that in mind when you hike, because I didn't even know this until my dad was telling me. Always, family member, friend, always tell anybody that you're close to where you're going and where you're hiking, because if you get lost, like we did, and it's been hours with no contact, and it's been very worrisome from your family or friends, they'll know where you're at. So when they have to call police or a helicopter to come find you, thank God it didn't come to that point. But anyway, you can tell them where you're at, so they have a good estimate in the woods where they can find you. Tips 101 of hiking for sure. Anyways, back to going to Sneeze Creek. So we're seeing beautiful rock formations, like I said, beautiful little mini waterfalls and creeks and stuff. So this is where the extra shoes and socks come in handy, because my dad knew we would be crossing some rivers. So we keep going. This is where it like starts the bad. Like this is the key point where everything just goes downhill. So this river, like the river where we're crossing, there's no way to get around it. My dad went down kind of past the riverbed a little bit to see like if we can, like, there's a shallow enough end, because we have these waterproof hiking boots. They're only so waterproof, okay, to a certain point. So there's no way to get around. So my dad's like, you know what, let me go across and I'll throw you these rocks, and so you can jump on the rocks and get across. Good idea, right? That's a good idea. I mean, what's the harm in that? So I'm very short and I have stubby legs. So my dad went up first, and I'm like, hey, there's no way I can cross that without eating it and getting soaked. So my dad gets across, he kind of makes his way, and so he's like, okay, stay right there. I'm gonna throw these rocks and you can go across the river. Boom, we have a plan, teamwork. So he throws the first rock. And I'm telling you, I don't think this was just not meant to be. This trail was just not meant to be, I'm telling you. So he throws this rock, and so I'm like, okay, first rock, I got this. Those rocks were slippery, and I had seen these great hiking boots, great traction. I'm telling you, these were slippery. I slip on the first rock he throws at me to go across. It was like slow motion, just, oh, Dad, no, I'm falling. Like, my dad's like, Chelsea, like, get back up. I was trying to like, the reason why it felt so slow motion, I was falling, but I was like balancing at the same time and trying to catch myself. So I'm like, I fall. But soaked, legs soaked. Mind you, I'm not wearing jeans. I'm wearing like these cotton yoga pants, so it's like sticking to me. Very uncomfortable. I get in the river, and I just look at my dad like, that just happened. He's like, well, get up. Because I kind of just sit there, and I laughed. He's like, get up. So I get up. I'm soaked anyway, so I just freaking cross the river without my dad throwing the rocks. There's no need. I'm soaked now. That was the whole point. So thank God my dad says, overpack, sis. And thank God I listened to him. So I got thank God I had an extra pair of socks and shoes. So I switch them out. I didn't think this through, because I didn't think I would be switching out shoes. I thought my dad was just overcautious. I packed these Adidas no traction slide everywhere shoes, like basically basketball shoes, no traction. So we get done with the river. I'm all like cut from like the rocks, and it hurt. I'm like, I feel like I'm already bruising. I'm in these cotton yoga pants that just keep sticking to me. I'm kind of in a bad mood now. And my dad, being an optimistic person that he is, he's like, oh my God, that's funny. Like, hey, good thing you listened to me and you packed those extra things. So that's number one of the red flags, that we probably should have went back. So that's not gonna stop us, right? We got extra stuff. We're going. We keep going. I'm kind of in a bad mood now. We keep going. We keep seeing these beautiful things, and we know we're taking our time because it's so early. And we got done with the first trail, and we're like, we got plenty of time. We got plenty of time. Boy, were we wrong. Anyway, so we're going. We like meet up with some other hikers, and like we're kind of talking about Sneeds Creek, and well, they were kind of like, they seemed like more advanced, like more in shape people. Like my dad was in shape, I was not for sure. So they were like more like younger people, and like they had a dog, and they're like, yeah. So they go, we're kind of talking about like, hey, do we keep following this trail? And they're like, yeah, the trees are marked, just follow the trail. There's other things off the trail that you can see, just make sure you get back on the main trail. mind you, we went in February, so like things are starting to spring up and greenery starting to happen, but you know, all these trees are shaking off all their dead leaves everywhere. So these leaves start to kind of pack down and they are camouflaging the trail. So we would go and we kind of lose the trail, and then my dad would pick up back on it by following the markers that's on the trees. So we're like, okay, if you can't find the trail, just look at the trees and find the markers. And like, okay, we're on the right track. So eventually, as we kept going, the markers stopped being on the trees. I'm not sure if like people thought it was funny and took down the markers, or they just fell off. I'm not sure how like they're put on the trees, but we started not seeing markers anymore. So like there was a couple times we'd kind of get off the main trail and like go look at like little caves and like little waterfalls, like taking pictures by them, and then we would come back up and go on the main trail. Well, we did that to one, and we got back up and my dad's like, hey sis, I can't find the trail anymore. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? He's like, no, I can't find the trail. I'm like, great. Dad's like, well, let's just keep following the river. So we follow it, we look at the trees, we can't find the markers anymore. We're like, where's all these markers? Like the people were telling us. So we're going, and we find the trail again, thank God. We find it, we keep going, we cross another riverbed. My dad didn't trust me, so he thought I would fall again into the river, so I got on his back. He's like carrying me across the river. And then we find this couple coming towards us, and we're like, hey, are we on the right track? Like, are we supposed to be following? Because the trails would point to the riverbeds, and then you're supposed to cross them, and then you'd find the trail back again. They're like, yeah, like, we're just coming back because we think it's a really long trail. They were older people. They're like, we're just gonna follow the trail back because we're not really sure how long it is, and we don't want to get lost. We're like, okay. Another red flag. So we get across the river, my dad puts me down, we find the trail again, we're going. And we keep finding all these things still, and then we eventually lose the trail all together. We're not sure how it happened. Like, I mean, we're just like enjoying nature, we're like looking at stuff and adventuring. No markers anymore. The leaves on the ground are covering the trail, camouflaging the trail. We can't find it. So my dad's like, I lost the trail again. And I'm like, well, let's just, backtrack. We kind of tried to backtrack to see if we could find the trail again. We didn't. We don't know what happened. It's like, I even quoted it when we were in the woods. I'm like, this is like Blair Witch Project, like that horror movie where they're in the woods and they're trying to get out and it's just nonstop going. They can't find, like they're just making circles. That's what it felt like. So we just kept going. We kept going. And to a point where my dad's like, says, I cannot pick up on the trail anymore. That's the first part where I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm a very quick person to freak out, okay? I try to keep it calm and collected, but that's just who I am. And I kind of start to freak out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what do we do? And Dad's like, calm down, I got a compass. So thank God, my dad, before we went into the hiking trail, we were going north. He goes, okay. He had a little compass that had like a whistle on it. And he's like, okay, so if we go south, eventually we'll get to the roundabout part where we left off and we can make it to the road. And then someone can just like pick us up. It's Arkansas, they're very nice people there. So I'm like, okay, so we're walking. And sorry, I'm making sure this is still recording back. So we're walking, and my dad's like, I cannot find it. Like we keep going and there's just nothing, no hikers around us. So my dad, this is where I start to freak out again. My dad starts yelling for help. He's like, help, help. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he has a whistle. Thank God. I mean, it's nice to have a whistle, but it didn't help us in this instance. He's blowing the whistle. He's like, is there anyone around us? Like we're lost. We lost the trail. Like help. I start yelling for help. We find this riverbed, this big giant riverbed, like huge boulders. And he's like, well, maybe if we follow this riverbed, it'll take us to where we are. Well, the riverbed wasn't going south. It was going somewhere else. I forgot. And so my dad's like, you know what? Let's just cross it and keep going south. So we're going. I'm just kind of starting to freak out. We keep going. Arkansas, if you've ever been, it's just full of these big mountains. Big, gorgeous mountains. Why didn't we just go around the mountain? Why didn't we just go around? So this is huge mountain, okay? So we have no cell phone signal. So we're looking at our phones like, man, no signal. Dad's like, okay, so I think if we climb this mountain, we'll get signal. I mean, come on. High, really tall mountain, we can get signal. I don't think we realized how big these mountains were, because it sounded like a great idea at the time. Mind you, I'm in these no traction Adidas tennis shoes and I'm sliding everywhere. No traction, I'm just sliding. Okay, note to self, don't bring tennis shoes with you. If you have extra pair of boots, bring those or some kind of tennis shoes that have some traction, because it was so awful, so miserable. Looking at this mountain and I'm like, okay, it sounds like a good idea. Let's do it. My dad's like, okay, what time is it? I think it was so freaked out. I wasn't paying attention too much to remember the time, but I think it was, I would probably say 1:30 already. And Dad's like, we're gonna lose sunlight if we don't pick up the pace. And he goes, you know, it's a tall mountain. We can get to the top of the mountain, get cell phone signal. So we're going. First off, it's just kind of like a really, you know, like when you're like going up a hill, it's kind of steep. It's like, whew. At first it was like that, so it was fine. Mind you, we overpacked. So we thought we had plenty of water and plenty of food. Not when you get lost. That's when you start running out. And we've been hiking since 6:30 this morning. So, you know, we've been eating and drinking. Fine, we didn't think we were gonna get lost. So we're going up this hill. By the way, this mountain that we're climbing, we now know how tall it is. My dad looked up, like he looks up like the map of Arkansas where we were hiking, and it tells you like the elevation and how big of the mountains are around you. 1 second. So the mountain that we climbed was 1,312 feet. That's how tall this mountain was. So we're climbing and it's starting to get steeper and steeper, and eventually we're on all fours climbing this mountain. We have no paracords, we don't have anything like to grab, like a little pick thing to like grab and go. We were on all fours. So this whole mountain's full of like leaves, grass, trees, logs, and thorns. These big, big thorns, like about, I'd probably say about this big. Mind you, my dad has jeans on, I don't. I have these cotton yoga pants on, like I said before. Just cutting the crap out of me. Like cutting through my yoga pants, not a problem. I have no protection at all, that's my fault. So we were climbing up here and my dad is like, oh my gosh, we're getting into these big thorn bushes. And I'm like, Dad, okay, I gotta stop, I'm getting so tired. And he's like, sis, like we gotta keep going. I'm like, please. So I'm grabbing out my backpack, getting my water. I think I had like a half bottle of water left. And I'm like, Dad, how much water do you have? And he had like a bottle and a half left. And he's looking at our water and he's like, it's time to save water. We're not sure how long we're gonna be out here. And so I think I had like 3 freakouts during this hike. This was number 1. So I look at my dad and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's not kidding. Like we have to start saving water because we're not sure how long we're gonna be up here. So I kind of start getting teary-eyed and he's like, Chelsea, this is not the time to cry. Like crying's not gonna help. We just start doing sips of water and you know, try to save it as we go. We gotta keep going. So my little mini 3-second panics stopped because it's like, hey, time to focus. This is a crisis. So we're going up this hill. Just non-going, like this hill's not stopping. And every time we would think, Dad's like, okay, I think we're almost at the top. No, we were far from the top. So we keep going. I'm like, Dad, like these thorn bushes are getting worse and worse. So my dad always bring like some kind of weapon with you, not guns. I mean, more power to you. But like a machete, a pocket knife, something. Well, my dad brought a machete. Let me tell you, these thorns were invincible. He would grab like the stalk of the thorn so he could like cut it and chuck it. He would use a machete and it would bounce off like rubber, just bouncing off. It would not cut him. So me and my dad had to keep folding them down. You know, when you fold them down, they're gonna come right back up. So he'd come right back and whack us in the face and arms and legs. You know, it's getting worse and worse as we're going up this mountain. So I'm telling my dad, I keep taking breaks. I was out of shape at this time. I'm like, I keep taking breaks. He goes, Chelsea, we have to keep going. We're running out of daylight. I would probably say it's like 2:30, maybe 3 o'clock by this time. Sun's going down. The sun's our time limit, okay? We're climbing this 1,312 foot mountain on a time limit with no experience climbing mountains and no like equipment to climb it with. So we're doing everything we can. So my dad's like, you know what? Here's the plan. Stay here. He goes, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna make a pretty good, go space between us. I'm gonna sit down and you keep up, you come to me. So that was our plan. I'm like, great, that's a good plan. Like my dad was my goal every single time. Knowing that, okay, every time I climb to my dad, I get to have a break. Every time I climb to my dad, I get to have a break. Every time I climb to my dad, I get to have a break. So we keep doing that, okay? Well, that only works for so long because it starts to take up a lot of time. I was really bringing my dad down, as in like, I was holding my dad back, that's better saying. And eventually, we run out of water. So me and my dad are sharing this little bit of water that we have because I'm out. He has like a little bit left because my dad can save more than me. He goes, Chelsea, like you have to start eating now because we're burning off everything we're taking in. So mind you, I'm dehydrated and my dad's telling me to eat whatever I have in my backpack. I have beef jerky, dehydrated meat. I'm putting this dehydrated meat into my dehydrated mouth. So it's like eating sandpaper. So I'm like trying to eat this. I'm like, Dad, I can't eat it. Like I don't have any saliva to even help me push this down. He's like, you have to try. You have to have all this energy. You have to have something. So we're going. We finally get to the top. I'm like, oh my gosh, finally, we're here. The sun's going down. My dad's like, get up, let's go. We gotta go. And so I'm like, okay, let's look at our phones. No signal. We did all that to have a signal. We were so high on this mountain. We were level with other mountains around us with no signal still. I think my dad had barely enough signal to pick up like how far we are from the road, but the signal was so weak it wasn't clearing the image to figure out where we were. Again, why did we go around the mountain? we were trying to get cell phone signal. That's the reason why we went up there. So we're up there. I freak out again. This is freak out number 2. I think I might have freaked out 4 times. This is freak out number 2. And so my dad's like, you know what? This is not the time to freak out. Like, this is not the time. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I just want to go home. And he's like, I know. And so he's like, let's go. So we're going here. He's like, Chels, there's not a trail up here. I'm like, there's not a trail? And he goes, we're just going to go by the compass. So we're getting by this compass. And he goes, if we just keep going south, we'll eventually make it to the road. So we're going. He's like, sis. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, hey, I found a little trail. A little trail meaning like, usually trails are like bigger in width. This was very thin trail, very thin. And he's like, it's a trail. Let's just follow it. And it's going the way we need to go. It was going south. So we're like, okay, let's follow this trail. Thank God. So we're going on this trail. And I'm lagging behind. He's like, sis, you got a fast walk. And I'm like, Dad, I'm so tired. And he's like, I know. And I look at him and I just bawl. This is like, I finally just lose it. And I'm like, Dad, I just want to go home. And he's like, I know, sweetie. And he's like holding me. He's like, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I said, no, it's not. Like, we didn't know this was going to happen. So we're going. And I'm like, walking down this trail. And I'm like, Dad, there's a cabin. There's a cabin in a bus. Oh my gosh, I think this is like a little canoe rental place. I think we're finally like civilization. And he's like, sis, what are you talking about? I'm like, Dad, it's right there. Like, it's right over there. And he's like, honey, what are you seeing? And oh my God, like even thinking about it, I want to cry. I look and I'm like, oh, it's just a whole bunch of boulders. Just a bunch of boulders. So I sit there and my dad goes, sweetie, you're hallucinating. And I bawl again. I'm on ball 4. I'm falling. Yeah. Freak out number 4, I think. I lost track. And so I'm bawling and I'm like, Dad, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And I said, it's fine. Everything's fine. And he's like, we have to keep going, Chelsea, I'm so sorry. Like, he goes, I want to go home too. I have to keep going. So we're still following this like kind of shady trail. So we're going. And then we're going on this trail, and my dad goes, this was my dad's freak out time. Like, it took him this long to, I wouldn't even really say this is a freak out. I think he just got mad. He just screams. Like, he yells a profanity really loud. And I'm like, because I'm like I literally feel like I'm gonna faint walking. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I lost the trail. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Well, thank God, it was like, we had to like go over this log, and we found it like almost immediately, so I didn't have time to freak out. So anyway, we were going, he's like, thank God I found it. We're going. And I'm like, Dad, we have to be almost there. And he goes, sis, I'm not sure how long I can make it either. I'm running out of energy. I'm so tired. We're out of water. I think we maybe have a little tiny bit left. Because I'm like, Dad, can I have another drink of water? And he goes, Chelsea, we have like nothing left anymore. And like, I remember taking a little sip, and he would take a little sip, and we were just taking turns. And so we were almost time to find a spot to sleep for the night. And finding out what we have in our backpacks to survive for the next morning. And he's like, Kelly, my stepmom, he's like, she knows where we're at, but like, we have no signal to call him and say, hey, we have to spend the night here. Like, no one's gonna know where we're, like, what we're doing. Like, Kelly's gonna wake up the next morning and be like, why are they still not here? Like, we weren't planning to stay overnight. No one would know what would be happening. And so, to this point, I'm almost just on my knees. My dad, I can't. I don't have anything in me to keep going. Right when I'm about to give up, we see this fence line, and I'm not hallucinating anymore. I'm like, Dad, there's a fence line. He's like, yeah, I can see it. You know, we're both seeing it. Like, hopefully it's real. So it's like, you have to go this little hill, and like, you see this fence line. He goes, okay, Chelsea, here's our options. Follow this shady trail and keep going. Eventually we'll make it to the entrance where we came in, or go up this little hill and go to this fence line and see if we can find help. I said, that's not even an option to follow this trail. I said, we're going to go back up, we're going to go up here and find help. Because we're running out of daylight, mind you. This sun's going down, faster, and faster. And it's probably, I'd probably say about 4:30 now, and we're losing daylight. So we're going up here, and he's like, come on, Chelsea. And I'm like, I'm hurrying. Well, it's a fence line. It's barbed wire fence line. And it's, we find a house. We see it. We're like, oh, thank God. And we see it's a whole bunch of person's cattle. Well, my dad points out, he goes, there's a whole bunch of purple markings on the wood. And if you don't know what the purple markings mean, purple, like spray paint or any kind of purple markings at all, means no trespassing. So we're so desperate, we're gonna trespass. Mind you, this is in Arkansas, and if we're on somebody's land, no trespassing, get ready, they're gonna shoot, you know, like, get off my property, you know, it's like, scary. So my dad's like, we're gonna hug this fence line, and this is big field of cows. And he goes, we're gonna hug this fence line, and we're gonna just follow the fence and go to the house. I said, why don't we just take a shortcut and cross the field? And he's like, because this is someone's property and they'll see us and they will not hesitate. What if he has dogs and he sicks the dogs on us? He goes, he's not gonna want to know our story. He's gonna be like, why are you on my property? So I'm like, okay. So we're going over the barbed wire, and we hug this fence line, and I swear as I'm walking, the house is going further and further and further away. And it's like, oh my gosh, please, house, please just come to me. Like, I just wanted to grab a rope around the house and just pull it towards me. And he's like, Chelsea, do you have that beef jerky still in your backpack? And I said, yeah. I said, why do you need that? And I'm like, are you hungry? Like, do you need something? Like, do you need some? And he's like, no, it's for the dogs. I said, the dogs? He's like, yeah. Remember earlier I said someone might sick their dogs on us? He might have dogs that are ready to attack. So, like, okay, he goes, maybe we can distract him with food. So get it ready to make sure, you know, he doesn't sick any dogs on us. So I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That's just another thing to add to the trip. Add to this movie, this nonsense. So I'm walking around with a big jerky in my hand. Just like, I would have been like, dogs, just attack me. Just do it. I have no energy. But we're crossing the fence line, like we're hugging the fence line. Thank God. No dog sicked us. Thank God. So we actually go under the barbed wire fence this time because it was really difficult to go over it. And it was much better. So we get to the house finally. And I am literally crawling on all fours up this guy's porch stairs. And I literally just drop on his porch, stomach first, face first. And my dad knocks on the door, and thank God, someone was there. And he opens the door, and he's like, I mean, could you imagine being this guy living at this house and opening your door and seeing this girl, face first on this person's porch and dirty, bloody, all scraped up, and then this grown man saying, please help us. Like, just looks just as bad as I do. Imagine, like, what do you do? Like, are these crazy people? Like, what happened? Did you hurt this girl? Like, that's terrifying. So he opens the door and he's like, yeah. What happened? And my dad's like, we got lost on this trail and we found this little trail coming up to your house. We need help. We're getting out of water. He's like, just sit down on the bench on the porch up there and I'll bring you guys some waters. Like, he seemed, I would be kind of a little scared too. Like, I don't know these people. My dad's like, God bless you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we sit down on the porch, on the chair, like the bench on the porch. And he gives us water and he kind of chuckles or he's like, I get 3 hikers a year coming up to my house following the Sneeds Creek Trail. And we're like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, it's very unmarked. They don't keep up with the trail. They don't make sure the trail is very clear. He's like, it needs to be marked better. Yeah, we got lost so many times trying to do it and we got lost all together. And come to find out, this guy was a volunteer firefighter for Arkansas where he lived. And so he was super nice. He's like, I get hikers 3 times a year, 3 hikers a year. It's common for me to find people literally crawling onto my porch needing help. And we're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. He's like, I can drive you back to the entrance where you guys started with the Himden Hollow Sneeds Creek Trail. We're like, oh, thank you so much. We're not sure how far we are from the entrance. And I can't remember exactly how far we were, but we were not that far. We were almost there. But, we were on a time limit with the sun going down. We did not want to take the chance of following that shady trail and figuring out it doesn't lead to anything. Well, come to find out, for that shady trail we were going on at his house, we were telling him about it, and he goes, yep, that's my horse trail. And we're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I go where you guys entered in, to get to my yard, to my field. He's like, that's where I go with my horses down the trails down there. And my dad's like, if it wasn't for your horse trail, we wouldn't probably got out tonight. He's like, yeah, a lot of hikers follow that trail and find me. And we're like, thank God you do that. That's insane. So he's like, let me drive you to the entrance. So we get to the entrance and he drops us off. We're like, thank you. We asked his name and we're like, thank you so much. You have no idea. You literally saved us. And he drops us off. And it's twilight outside now. And we get to the car and we just sit there. Just unbelievable what just happened. And my dad starts laughing and I'm like, why are you laughing? And he's like, oh my gosh, what a story we're gonna tell everyone when we get back. And I said, yeah, but everyone's worried sick because we've been gone since 3 a.m. And Dad's like, yeah, we better get going and get some signal. So I'm not myself. My dad's kind of more into he got back to himself pretty fast. I was not there yet. I was dying. Literally felt like I was dying because everything in my body was burnt off. And I was dehydrated. So we go to a convenience store, we get signal. My dad calls Kelly and goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's been so late for us to contact you. Which Kelly's my stepmom. We got lost in the woods. So he's kind of telling her that, he's going to the convenience store and getting what we need. And my dad comes out with grapes, peanuts, and Coke. Soda, Coke. And I'm like, why did you get Coke? Why didn't you get these big bottles of water? He goes, you need sugar. That's why you're not yourself. You need energy. You need some kind of sugar. So I'm like, okay. So I'm telling you, this Coke was the best thing I ever tasted in my life. Like, oh my gosh, like when I drank this, I'm like, it was like magic. I got my energy back up. I was eating the grapes and the peanuts, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm finally myself. Like, from this experience, I finally know how far my body can go until I literally collapse. Like, this feeling was something I'd never felt before in my life. And we got back and it was a long talk back of like, oh my gosh, like going through what we should have done, like as in my dad's like, I'm so sorry, we should have went around the mountain instead of up it. And yeah, that was an experience I'll never forget. It's something to tell my children and friends. And don't get me wrong, when I got back, I told some of my friends and my family, and they couldn't believe it. They're like, oh my gosh, that's literally like a movie. And I'm like, I know, like I felt like I was in one. I couldn't believe this was happening. And it was something I'll never ever forget. And I'm glad that I was with my dad, and because if it wasn't for his positivity and optimistic mood and, you know, knowledge of like being in the woods and hiking, I would have lost it. I would have been in that woods the entire night. I would have stayed there if it wasn't for him. So shout out to my dad for that. But yeah, that's the story of how my dad and I got lost in Arkansas woods for 9 hours. And we didn't die. I'm here. It was just really scary. So anyway, that's my story time for you guys today. I thought that would be super fun to tell you guys, like dramatic, and I thought it was just a really unique story because, you know, not everyone gets lost in the woods and comes back. Anyway, so yeah, that was my story time for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for bearing with me, and if you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story, because this was kind of a long story. It was a lot to tell. So thank you so much for making it this far. Please leave a comment down below. I would really love to like hear you guys, like give me any comments, like maybe give me some pointers for next time I go hiking, if I'm with friends, any other pointers like to make sure I have. Please leave a comment if you made it this far. Leave a tree emoji if you made it this far, so I know that you guys made it. Leave a tree emoji down in the comments below if you made it this far. Please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. That would mean a lot to me. And hit that notification bell so you guys know when I upload, so you guys can get that notified. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to my dad. He actually made a podcast called Roundtable Free Speech Podcast, and he has his first episode up, ready to go. Fantastic. Check it out. I'll leave his YouTube channel in the description below. And on Facebook, he has a Facebook page called Roundtable Free Speech Podcast. If you guys like listening to like history and war stuff, and like it's kind of like miscellaneous things, but it's mostly like history. So go check that out. Leave a comment. Tell him that I sent you guys. Please like and subscribe to his channel as well. Yeah. So thank you for watching, guys, and leave me a comment. Leave me some things that you guys want to see next. I just thought this would be really fun. Just sit down and talk to one another today. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate you guys. Bye.